Book 3, Canto 3. The Legend of Britomartis. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Faerie Queene by Edmund Spenser. Book 3. The Legend of Britomartis, or of Chastity, Canto 3. Merlin bewrays to Britomart the state of Artegall, and shows the famous progeny from which them springen shall. Most sacred fire, that burnest mightily in living breasts, it kindled first above, amongst th' eternal spheres and lamping sky, and thence pour'd into men, which men call love, not that same which doth base affections move in brutish minds, and filthy lust inflame, but that sweet fit, that doth true beauty love, and chooseth virtue for his dearest dame, whence spring all noble deeds and never dying fame. Well did antiquity a god thee deem, that over mortal minds hast so great might, to order them as best to thee doth seem, and all their actions to direct aright. The fatal purpose of divine foresight thou dost effect in destined descents, through deep impression of thy secret might, and stirredst up the hero's high intents, which the late world admires for wondrous monuments. But thy dread darts in none do triumph more, ne braver proof in any of thy pow'r, shouldst thou then in this royal maid of yore, making her seek an unknown paramour, from the world's end through many a bitter store, from whose two loins thou afterwards did raise most famous fruits of matrimonial bow'r, which through the earth have spread their living praise, that fame in trump of gold eternally displays. Begin then, O my dearest sacred dame, daughter of Phoebus and of memory, that dost ennoble with immortal name the warlike worthies from antiquity, in thy great volume of eternity. Begin, O Clio, and recount from hence my glorious sovereign's goodly ancestry, till that by due degrees and long pretence thou have it lastly brought unto her excellence. Full many ways within her troubled mind old Glauce cast to cure this lady's grief. Full many ways she sought, but none could find, nor herbs, nor charms, nor counsel, that is chief and choicest med'cine for sick hearts' relief. For thy great care she took, and greater fear, least that it should her turn to foul reprief, and sore reproach, when so her father dear should of his dearest daughter's hard misfortune hear. At last she her avised, that he, which made that mirror, wherein the sick damosel so strangely viewed her strange lover's shade, to wit, the learned Merlin, well could tell under what coast of heaven the man did dwell, and by what means his love might best be wrought. For though beyond the Afric Ismael, or the Indian Peru he were, she thought him forth through infinite endeavour to have sought. Forthwith themselves disguising both in strange and base attire, that none might them bewray, to Meridunum, that is now by change of name Caer Merlin called, they took their way. There the wise Merlin whilom wont they say to make his one, low underneath the ground, in a deep delve, far from the view of day, that of no living wight he mought be found. When so he counselled with his sprites encompassed round. And if thou ever happen that same way to travel, go to see that dreadful place. It is an hideous hollow cave, they say, under a rock that lies a little space from the swift Barry, tumbling down apace amongst the woody hills of Dinaur. But dare thou not, I charge, in any case, to enter into that same baleful bower, for fear the cruel fiends should thee unwares devour. But standing high aloft, lo, lay thine ear, and there such ghastly noise of iron chains and brazen cauldrons thou shalt rumbling hear, which thousand sprites with long enduring pains do toss, that it will stun thy feeble brains, and oftentimes great groans and grievous stones, when too huge toil and labour them constrains. And oftentimes loud strokes and ringing sounds from under that deep rock most horribly rebounds. The cause, some say, is this: a little while before that Merlin died, he did intend a brazen wall in compass to compile about Caermarthen, and did it commend unto these sprites to bring to perfect end, during which work the Lady of the Lake, whom long he loved, for him in haste did send, who thereby forced his workmen to forsake, them bound till his return their labour not to slake. In the mean time, though that false lady's train, he was surprised, and buried under bare, ne ever to his work returned again. Natheless, those fiends may not their work forbear, so greatly his commandment they fear, but there do toil and travel day and night, until that brazen wall they up do rear. For Merlin had in magic more insight than ever him before or after living wight. For he by words could call out of the sky both sun and moon, and make them him obey, the land to sea, and sea to mainland dry, and darksome night he eke could turn to day. Huge hosts of men he could alone dismay, and hosts of men of meanest things could frame, when so him list his enemies to fray, that to this day for terror of his fame the fiends do quake, when any him to them does name. And sooth men say that he was not the son of mortal sire, or other living wight, but wondrously begotten, and begun by false illusion of a guileful sprite, on a fair lady nun, that whilom hight Matilda, daughter to Pubidius, who was the lord of Mathraval by right, and cousin unto King Ambrosius, whence he endued was with skill so marvellous. They here arriving stayed a while without, ne durst adventure rashly in to wend, but of their first intent gan make new doubt, for dread of danger which it might portend. Until the hardy maid, with love to friend, first entering the dreadful Mage there found, deep busied bout work of wondrous end, and writing strange characters in the ground, with which the stubborn fiends he to his service bound. He naught was moved at their entrance bold, for of their coming well he wist afore, yet list them bid their business to unfold, as if aught in this world in secret store were from him hidden, or unknown of yore. Then Glauce thus: let not it thee offend that we thus rashly through thy darksome door unwares have pressed, for either fatal end or other mighty cause us two did hither send. He bade tell on, and then she thus began: now have 3 moons with borrowed brothers light thrice shined fair, and thrice seemed dim and wan, sith a sore evil which this virgin bright tormenteth, and doth plunge in doleful plight, first rooting took, but what thing it mought be, or whence it sprung, I cannot read aright. But this I read, that but if remedy thou her afford, full shortly I her dead shall see. Therewith the enchanter softly gan to smile at her smooth speeches, weeting inly well that she to him dissembled womanish guile, and to her said: Beldame, by that ye tell, more need of leechcraft hath your damosel than of my skill, who help may have elsewhere, in vain seeks wonders out of magic spell. The old woman walks half blank those words to hear, and yet was loath to let her purpose plain appear. And to him said: If any leech's skill or other learned means could have redressed this my dear daughter's deep engraffed ill, certes I should be loath thee to molest. But this sad evil which doth her infest doth course of natural cause far exceed, and housed is within her hollow breast, that either seems some cursed witch's deed, or evil sprite that in her doth such torment breed. The wizard could no longer bear her board, but brusting forth in laughter to her said: Glaucie, what needs this colourable word to cloak the cause that hath itself bewrayed? Nay, if fair Britomart is thus arrayed, more hidden are than sun in cloudy veil, whom thy good fortune, having fate obeyed, hath hither brought for succour to appeal, the which the powers to thee are pleased to reveal. The doubtful maid, seeing herself descried, was all abashed, and her pure ivory into a clear carnation sudden dyed, as fair Aurora, rising hastily, doth by her blushing tell that she did lie all night in old Tithonus' frozen bed, whereof she seems ashamed inwardly. But her old nurse was not disheartened, but vantage made of that which Merlin had aread, and said: Sith then thou knowest all our grief, for what dost thou not know? Of grace I pray, pity our plaint, and yield us meet relief. With that the prophet still a while did stay, and then his spirit thus gan forth display: Most noble virgin, that by fatal lore hast learned to love, let no whit thee dismay the hard begin that meets thee in the door, and with sharp fits thy tender heart oppresseth sore. For so must all things excellent begin, and eke enrooted deep must be that tree, whose big embodied branches shall not lin, till they to heaven's height forth stretched be. For from thy womb a famous progeny shall spring out of the ancient Trojan blood, which shall revive the sleeping memory of those same antique peers, the heavens' brood, which Greece and Asian rivers stained with their blood. Renowned kings and sacred emperors, thy fruitful offspring, shall from thee descend, brave captains and most mighty warriors, that shall their conquests through all lands extend, and their decayed kingdoms shall amend. The feeble Britons, broken with long war, they shall uprear and mightily defend against their foreign foe, that comes from far, till universal peace compound all civil jar. It was not, Britomart, thy wandering eye, glancing unawares in charmed looking glass, but the straight course of heavenly destiny, led with eternal providence, that has guided thy glance to bring his will to pass. Ne is thy fate, ne is thy fortune ill to love the prowest knight that ever was. Therefore submit thy ways unto his will, and do by all due means thy destiny fulfill. But read, said Glaucie, thou magician, what means shall she out seek, or what ways take? How shall she know, how shall she find the man? or what needs her to toil, sith fates can make way for themselves, their purpose to partake. Then Merlin thus: indeed the fates are firm, and may not shrink, though all the world do shake, yet ought men's good endeavours them confirm, and guide the heavenly causes to the man whom heavens have ordained to be the spouse of Britomart is Artegall. He wonneth in the land of Faerie, yet is no fairy born, ne sibbet all, to elves, but sprung of seed terrestrial, and whilom by false fairies stolen way, whiles yet in infant cradle he did crawl, ne other to himself is known this day, but that he by an elf was gotten of a fay. But sooth he is the son of Gorlois, and brother unto Cador, Cornish king, and for his warlike feats renowned is. From where the day out of the sea doth spring, until the closure of the evening, from thence him firmly bound with faithful band to this his native soil thou back shalt bring, strongly to aid his country to withstand the power of foreign paynims which invade thy land. Great aid thereto his mighty puissance and dreaded name shall give in that sad day, where also proof of thy prow valiance thou then shalt make t'increase thy lovers' prey. Long time ye both in arms shall bear great sway, till thy womb's burden thee from them do call, and his last fate him from thee take away, to wraith cut off by practice criminal of secret foes that him shall make in mischief fall. Where thee yet shall he leave for memory of his late puissance, his image dead, that living him in all activity to thee shall represent. He from the head of his cousin Constantius without dread shall take the crown, that was his father's right, and therewith crown himself in the other's stead. Then shall he issue forth with dreadful might against his Saxon foes in bloody field to fight. Like as a lion that in drowsy cave hath long time slept, himself so shall he shake, and coming forth shall spread his banner brave over the troubled south, that it shall make the warlike Mercians for fear to quake. Thrice shall he fight with them, and twice shall win, but the third time shall fair accordance make, and if he then with victory can lin, he shall his days with peace bring to his earthly inn. His son hight Vortipor shall him succeed in kingdom, but not in felicity. Yet shall he long time war with happy speed, and with great honour many battles try, but at the last to the importunity of froward fortune shall be forced to yield. But his son Malgo shall full mightily avenge his father's loss, with spear and shield, and his proud foes discomfit in victorious field. Behold the man, and tell me, Britomart, if I more goodly creature thou didst see, how like a giant in each manly part bears he himself with portly majesty, that one of the old heroes seems to be. He the 6 islands comprovincial, in ancient times unto Great Brittany, shall to the same reduce, and to him call their sundry kings to do their homage several. All which his son Careticus a while shall well defend, and Saxons' power suppress, until a stranger king from unknown soil arriving, him with multitude oppress. Great Gormond, having with huge mightiness Ireland subdued, and therein fixed his throne, like a swift otter fell through emptiness, shall overswim the sea with many one of his Norvaces, to assist the Britons' fone. He in his fury all shall overrun, and holy church with faithless hands deface, that thy sad people utterly fordone shall to the utmost mountains fly apace. Was never so great wast in any place, nor so foul outrage doen by living men. For all thy cities they shall sack and race, and the green grass that groweth they shall brenn, that even the wild beast shall die in starved den. Whiles thus thy Britons do in languor pine, proud Ethelred shall from the north arise, serving th' ambitious will of Augustine, and passing Dee with hardy enterprise, shall back repulse the valiant Brockwell twice, and Bangor with massacred martyrs fill, but the third time shall rue his foolhardies, for Cadwon, pitying his people's ill, shall stoutly him defeat and 1,000 Saxons kill. But after him Cadwallon mightily on his son Edwin all those wrongs shall wreak, ne shall avail the wicked sorcery of false Pelite his purposes to break, but him shall slay, and on a gallows bleak shall give the enchanter his unhappy hire. Then shall the Britons, late dismayed and weak, from their long vassalage 'gin to respire, and on their Paynim foes avenge their rankled ire. Ne shall he yet his wrath so mitigate, till both the sons of Edwin he have slain, Offric and Osric, twins unfortunate, both slain in battle upon Laburn plain, together with the king of Luthien, hight Aidan, and the king of Orkney, both joint partakers of the fatal pain. But Penda, fearful of like destiny, shall yield himself his liegeman, and swear fealty. Him shall he make his fatal instrument, to afflict the other Saxons unsubdued, he marching forth with fury insolent against the good King Oswald, who endued with heavenly power, or by angels rescued, all holding crosses in their hands on high, shall him defeat withouten blood embrued, of which that field for endless memory shall Heavenfield be called to all posterity. Whereat Cadwallon wroth shall forth issue, and an huge host into Northumber lead, with which he godly Oswald shall subdue, and crown with martyrdom his sacred head, whose brother Oswin, daunted with like dread, with price of silver shall his kingdom buy, and Penda, seeking him adown to tread, shall tread adown, and do him foully die, but shall with gifts his lord Cadwallon pacify. Then shall Cadwallon die, and then the reign of Britons eke with him ataunce shall die. Ne shall the good Cadwallader with pain or power be able to it remedy, when the full time prefixed by destiny shall be expired of Britain's regiment, for heaven itself shall their success envy, and them with plagues and murrains pestilent consume, till all their warlike puissance be spent. Yet after all these sorrows and huge hills of dying people during 8 years' space, Cadwallader, not yielding to his ills from Armoric, where long in wretched case he lived, returning to his native place, shall be by vision stayed from his intent, for the heavens have decreed to displace the Britons, for their sins due punishment, and to the Saxons overgive their government. Then woe, and everlasting woe, be to the Briton babe that shall be born to live in thraldom of his father's foe, late king, now captive, late lord, now forlorn, the world's reproach, the cruel victor's scorn, banished from princely bower to wasteful wood. Oh, who shall help me to lament and mourn the royal seed, the antique Trojan blood, whose empire longer here than ever any stood? The damsel was full deep impassioned, both for his grief and for her people's sake, whose future woes so plain he fashioned, and sighing sore at length him thus bespake: Ah, but will heaven's fury never slake, nor vengeance huge relent itself at last? Will not long misery late mercy make? But shall their name for ever be defaced, and quite from off the earth their memory be raced? Nay, but the term, he said, is limited, that in this thraldom Britons shall abide, and the just revolution measured, that they as strangers shall be notified, for twice 400 years shall be supplied, ere they to former rule restored shall be, and their importune fates all satisfied. Yet during this their most obscurity, their beams shall oft break forth, that men them fair may see. For Roderick, whose surname shall be Great, shall of himself a brave ensample shew, that Saxon kings his friendship shall entreat, and Howel Da shall goodly well endue the salvage minds with skill of just and true. Then Griffith Conan also shall uprear his dreaded head, and the old sparks renew of native courage, that his foes shall fear least back again the kingdom he from them should bear. Ne shall the Saxons selves all peaceably enjoy the crown, which they from Britons won first ill, and after ruled wickedly. For ere 200 years be full outrun, there shall the raven far from rising sun, with his wide wings, upon them fiercely fly, and bid his faithless chickens overrun the fruitful plains, and with fell cruelty in their revenge tread down the victor's circuitry. Yet shall a third both these and thine subdue. There shall a lion from the seaboard wood of Neustria come roaring, with a crew of hungry whelps, his batteiless bold brood, whose claws were newly dipped in cruddy blood, that from the Danisk tyrant's head shall rend the usurped crown, as if that he were wood, and the spoil of the country conquered amongst his young ones shall divide with bounty head. Though when the term is full accomplished, there shall a spark of fire, which hath long while been in his ashes raked up and hid, be freshly kindled in the fruitful isle of Mona, where it lurked in exile, which shall break forth into bright burning flame, and reach into the house that bears the style of royal majesty and sovereign name. So shall the Briton blood their crown again reclaim. Thenceforth eternal union shall be made between the nations different afore, and sacred peace shall lovingly persuade the warlike minds to learn her goodly lore, and civil arms to exercise no more. Then shall a royal virgin reign, which shall stretch her white rod over the Belgic shore, and the great castle smite so sore withal, that it shall make him shake and shortly learn to fall. But yet the end is not there Merlin stayed, as overcomen of the spirit's power, or other ghastly spectacle dismayed, that secretly he saw, yet note discore, which sudden fit and half ecstatic store. When the two fearful women saw, they grew greatly confused in behaviour. At last the fury past, to former hue he turned again, in cheerful looks as erst did show. Then when themselves they well instructed had of all that needed them to be enquired, they both conceiving hope of comfort glad, with lighter hearts unto their home retired, where they in secret counsel close conspired, how to effect so hard an enterprise, and to possess the purpose they desired. Now this, now that twixt them they did devise, and divers plots did frame, to mask in strange disguise. At last the nurse in her foolhardy wit conceived a bold device, and thus bespake: Daughter, I deem that counsel I most fit, that of the time doth due advantage take. Ye see that good King Uther now doth make strong war upon the Paynim brethren, hight Octa and Oza, whom he lately brake beside Cair Verolame in victorious fight, that now all Brittany doth burn in armes bright. That therefore naught our passage may impeach, let us in feigned arms ourselves disguise, and our weak hands, whom need new strength shall teach, the dreadful spear and shield to exercise. Ne certes, daughter, that same warlike wise, I ween, would you misseem, for ye been tall, and large of limb, t'achieven hard emprise. Ne aught ye want but skill, which practice small will bring, and shortly make you a maid martial. And sooth it ought your courage much inflame, to hear so often, in that royal house from whence to none inferior ye came, bards tell of many women valorous, which have full many feats adventurous performed in paragon of proudest men. The bold Bonduca, whose victorious exploits made Rome to quake, stout Gwendolen, renowned Marcia, and redoubted Emmeline. And that which more than all the rest may sway late days' ensample, which these eyes beheld in the last field before Minoia, which Uther with those foreign pagans held. I saw a Saxon virgin, the which felled great Ulfin thrice upon the bloody plain, and had not Carados her hand withheld from rash revenge, she had him surely slain. Yet Carados himself from her escaped with pain. Ah, read, quoth Britomart, how is she hight? Fair Angela, quoth she, men do her call, no whit less fair than terrible in fight. She hath the leading of a martial and a mighty people, dreaded more than all the other Saxons, which do for her sake and love themselves of her name Angles call. Therefore, fair infant, her ensample make unto thyself, and equal courage to thee take. Her hearty words so deep into the mind of the young damsel sunk, that great desire of warlike arms in her forthwith they tyne, and a generous stout courage did inspire, that she resolved, unwitting to her sire, adventurous knighthood on herself to don, and counselled with her nurse her maid's attire to turn into a massy habergeon, and bade her all things put in readiness anon. The old woman naught that needed did omit, but all things did conveniently purvey. It fortuned, so time their turn did fit, a band of Britons riding on foray, few days before had gotten a great prey of Saxon goods, amongst the which was seen a goodly armour and full rich array, which longed to Angela, the Saxon queen, all fretted round with gold, and goodly well beseen. The same with all the other ornaments King Rience caused to be hanged high in his chief church, for endless monuments of his success and gladful victory, of which herself avising readily. In the evening late old Glauce thither led fair Britomart, and that same armoury down taking her therein apparelled, well as she might, and with brave baldric garnished. Beside those arms there stood a mighty spear, which bladed made by magic art of yore, and used the same in battle aye to bear, sith which it had been here preserved in store, for his great virtues proved long afore. For never wight so fast in selle could sit, but him perforce unto the ground it bore. Both spear she took, and shield, which hung by it, both spear and shield of great power, for her purpose fit. Thus when she had the virgin all arrayed, another harness which did hang thereby about herself she dight, that the young maid she might in equal arms accompany, and as her squire attend her carefully, though to their ready steeds they clomb full light, and through back ways that none might them espy, covered with secret cloud of silent night, themselves they forth conveyed, and passed forward right. Ne rested they, till that to Faerie Lond they came, as Merlin them directed late, where meeting with this red cross knight she fond of divers things discourses to dilate, but most of Artegall in his estate. At last their ways so fell, that they mote part, then each to other well affectionate, friendship professed with unfeigned heart, the Red Cross Knight diversed, but forth rode Britomart. End of Canto 3, Book 3, The Legend of Britomartis, or of Chastity.